Hi, sixth graders. So we are going to pick up where we left off with found. And I don't have the document camera here with me at home to read this to you. So underneath the document camera, so you just get me today, like we had before. And for some reason, my bookmark fell out. So we were on chapter 4. So if you remember, Chip just found out that he was adopted as well, and he's having a hard time coming to grips with that because his parents had never told him. And also, he received a note saying he is one of the missing. And Jonah is unclear what that is all about, but he knows that he's going to help his friend get through these emotions that he's having about the adoption. Okay, so try 10/28/66, Chip whispered. Why? Jonah asked. That's Dad's birthday, Chip said. He's so conceited and stupid sometimes. He'd use his own birthday as the code. It had been 2 days since Jonah and Chip had each gotten their "You are one of the missing" letters, and Chip was acting crazier than ever. Today, coming home on the school bus, Chip had gotten obsessed with the idea that he had to see his birth certificate, but that would tell him everything he thought that he needed to know. So now the two boys were crouched beside a wall safe in Chip's basement. Jonah paused with his fingers poised over the digital keypad. Really? He said. Even if your birth certificate's in here, it's not going to help you. Like I told you, like it said on the internet, when a kid is adopted, they issue a new birth certificate and they lock the old papers away. Your original birth certificate is not going to be in here unless it was an open adoption. And somehow I don't think if your parents won't even talk about you being adopted. Just try the code, Chip insisted. My hand's shaking too bad. Jonah glanced over at his friend, who did indeed look shaky. Even in the dim light of the basement, Jonah could tell that Chip had a panicky sheen of sweat on his face. Chip's curly hair was mashed down because he'd kept clutching his head, like he had to work hard to hold himself together. He seemed about one step away from being one of those loony types who mumbled to themselves on the street downtown. Jonah sighed and began punching in numbers 1, 0, 2, 8, 6, 6. Nothing happened. When's your birthday? Jonah asked. Mine? Chip said September 19th. And you're 13? Yeah, why? Jonah didn't answer, just began punching in a new combination 0919. The safe beeped, and then there was an audible click. The safe door swung open, just a crack. Bingo, Jonah said. He kind of wished his own mom and dad were there just then because they would be able to tell Chip, see, your parents must care about you. They used your birthday as the code to their safe. But Jonah couldn't say anything that goopy all by himself. Go ahead, open it, said Chip. I can't look. He had his shaking hand over his eyes, but he kept lifting it to peek out. Jonah gripped the door to partly open the safe. Sure you want me to do this? He asked. This is kind of like breaking and entering or something, isn't it? Chip scowled at him. You're in my house, he said. I asked you to open the safe, but it's your parents. What they want doesn't count, Chip said harshly. There was some saying Jonah's mom always quoted, usually though to Catherine, about how eavesdroppers never heard anything good about themselves. Jonah wondered if this also applied to boys opening locked safes and looking at secret papers. But that was something else that he couldn't say to Chip. He jerked on the door, swinging it completely open, and reached in to take out the first few sheets of paper on top of the stack. This is just stuff about buying your house, Jonah said, quickly leafing through the papers. Real estate settlements, title insurance. Chip moved his hand away from his eyes and squinted at the papers. Maybe that's connected too, he said slowly. My dad says they got a really sweet deal on this house. Maybe I was supposed to meet you, so I'd find out about being adopted. Jonah carefully put the papers in the stack on the floor. About 4 out of every 100 Americans are adopted, Jonah said. I think you could have met someone who was adopted in any neighborhood you might have moved to. Now you're sounding really crazy, like those conspiracy theorists who think that the moon landing never happened or that the government has a bunch of aliens locked up on some military base in New Mexico. But they do, Chip said. They do. Aliens are real. You really believe that? Chip slugged him in the arm. No, fooled you. Jonah was glad that Chip could still show some sense of humor, that he hadn't totally crossed the line into complete insanity. Jonah reached into the safe again and pulled out more papers. He was careful to keep them in order as he sorted through them. 3/4 of the way down into the stack, he let out a low whistle. Here it is. He held up a document labeled Birth Certificate, Cook County, Illinois. Chip evidently forgot that he was too stressed out to look. He crowded against Jonah's shoulder. Charles Haddingford Winston III, huh? Jonah teased. Chip grimaced. It's crazy, isn't it? He said bitterly. I'm Charles Winston III, and I'm not really even related. They just had to have some kid to stick a name on. Chip, you are related. Or as good as related. They have raised you, Jonah said. Not very well, Chip said. Jonah took one look at Chip's face and just decided not to argue. He rifled through the rest of the papers. Beside him, Chip groaned. Happy Family Adoption Agency, Chip muttered. You have got to be kidding me. Something slipped out of the stack of papers that Jonah was holding against one knee, while he braced his other knee against the floor. Trying to catch the one sliding paper, Jonah lost his balance and fell over sideways. The whole stack cascaded down to the carpet, skidding toward the wall. Sorry, Jonah said. If things are out of order, your dad might be able to tell. I don't care, Chip said acidly. Jonah frowned and began gathering up the papers. He thought he'd gotten everything until he saw a scrap of yellow sticking out from under a chair just a few feet away. That's what started this whole mess, he muttered. He reached down under the chair and pulled out a yellow Post-it note. It said, James Reardon, 513-555-0192. He held the note up so Chip could see it too. Was this the adoption papers or the house stuff? Jonah asked. Chip narrowed his eyes. I know how to find out, he said. He took the Post-it note from Jonah's hand and walked to the other side of the basement where couches and chairs clustered around a huge entertainment center. He reached into the cabinet of the entertainment center and he pulled out the cordless phone. Here, I'll put it on speaker so you can hear it too, Chip said. Chip, I don't think we should. Jonah stopped because he couldn't explain why this suddenly seemed like such a bad idea. Chip began punching in the numbers on the phone, each digital beep adding to Jonah's sense of apprehension. Jonah rushed over to Chip's side, as if being able to see the phone as well as hear it would make everything easier. The phone clicked, making a connection, and then smoothly followed into ringing. It rang once, twice, another click. Then a gruff voice boomed out of the phone. Federal Bureau of Investigations, Federal Bureau of Investigations, Reardon speaking. So FBI, Reardon speaking. Jonah stabbed his finger on the button to break the connection and hang up the call. What'd you do that for? Chip demanded. Started the next chapter. So they found this Post-it note. They found the adoption papers. They found this Post-it note in the locked safe that they had opened up. They cracked the code, opened it up. And on this Post-it note was a phone number which they called. And it directed them to, it called the FBI. So the FBI, if you know anything about that, think back. What do those letters stand for? Federal Bureau of Investigation. Do you know anything about the FBI? See if you can activate some of your background knowledge. What kinds of things, what is the FBI and what do they do? Okay. See if you can activate some of that background knowledge and then answer the questions on the form for today's reading. And we will read chapter 5 tomorrow. All right.